this is perfect. I can raise my animals here. I can butcher them myself. I can literally own every step of the process. I'm going to be like a mini Smithfield pork. Anytime you hear the word free attached to anything, a red flag should go up in your head. If you're not paying dollars for something, you're paying something else. Being cheap is not only costing you time and sanity, both of which are in relatively short supply when you are managing a homestead of any size, as well as running a family and working a job off the farm like I am, but it's also costing you money. And in this video, I want to unpack this idea a little bit and explore the ways that we can actually be more efficient with our dollars so that we can get greater value and greater return from the time that we're investing in this endeavor of homesteading. I'm Stephen Reichert. This is Rowan Ridge Farm. I'm in western New Hampshire, and we are raising heritage hogs on pasture the old-fashioned way, and I've been doing this for about 4 years. So I've made all the mistakes that I'm going to tell you about today, and there's still a handful of mistakes that I have yet to make, and I'm working on those, and I'm going to share them here with videos on this channel. I would love to have you subscribe and to come along with us because we want to make America farmers again, but it's important to go into this with our eyes open. So as someone of German and Scottish extraction, I can tell you that I have pinched a penny hard enough to make old Abe Lincoln shed more than a couple tears. It always comes from this desire to do everything myself because that's what farming and homesteading is all about, right? We want to wear all the hats, but there are limits to what we can actually do well. I'm going to give you a handful of examples that are areas where I have tried to be cheap and gotten punished for it, both financially and emotionally. I'm feeding pigs here on this farm, and so one of the biggest expenses that I have is feed. And I see lots of videos on YouTube and people in various groups and forums talking about free sources of feed. And anytime you hear the word free attached to anything, a red flag should go up in your head because it's not going to be free. It's going to cost you something else, probably time or patience. If you're not paying dollars for something, you're paying something else. I've used brewer's grain, which is a great source of protein, but it spoils really quickly. And it comes from a place that is a considerable distance away, so there's a lot of time and transportation involved. There's outdated food that comes from the local food bank, which is great, but the problem is a lot of times that stuff has mold on it, and mold leads to health problems with the animals, and you wind up trying to save a nickel on feed costs, and you wind up creating illness in your herd that then you have to spend a lot of time and medication to resolve. There's also the factor of trash, so that when you're getting expired food, then you have to unwrap everything and open the jars and dump it in the bucket. And then, in addition to doing that work and trying to maintain some cleanliness, you also have to make sure that the trash isn't building up and you have to get rid of that, which takes time. I have used whey for an additional feed supplement, which I can get at no cost from a local farm that makes cheese. And whey is really fantastic, but it only makes sense if there's a small enough amount of time invested in trucking to where I'm not losing 2-3 hours out of my day to go and pick this stuff up. I had a lot of folks locally at one point who were dropping off expired food items. I was going and picking up brewer's grain from the brewery that's about 40 minutes away. And once I got done actually putting a pencil to the paper, that free food actually cost me a lot more in time and money when you factor in the cost of gas and transportation to get all of that to my animals. And I would have been better off just saying no thank you and keeping it simple, buying the feed that works, feeding it, and prioritizing my time. Animal shelters. This is another one where I've lost a considerable amount of money because, well, I'm a farmer now, so I'm going to start building all of my own stuff. Now, I am magically endowed with the skill of building, construction, carpentry, all that stuff that I have no expertise or background in. Why should I pay somebody else when I can just do it myself? Built a couple of A-frame shelters, and it took me about 2.5 days, not counting the cost of the materials, to get these shelters built, which ultimately lasted maybe 6 weeks before the animals started to take them apart. And it took them probably an entire year for them to fully dismantle everything. My work was not up to what the animals were going to do to it, especially when you factor in moving it around with a tractor. So I had a lot of material and a lot of labor into something that did not last. Turned out to be a colossal waste of money and materials, and also in man hours when I could have invested that money, which I ultimately wound up doing, and buying porta huts. They look like a half of a culvert pipe and they're made out of steel and you can move them with the tractor. They are not cheap. They're 1100 bucks for a big one, and the smaller ones are about 600 bucks, but they last forever and they are very easy to move. And the biggest benefit with them compared to the shelters that I made, because I actually did the math on the materials and the labor, because I was going to hire it out to a skilled builder. And when I factored in the material and the labor, it was actually more expensive to build A-frame shelters myself with buying all the materials and having him put everything together. And then on top of it, the resale value is something that I always have in the back of my mind, because I always like to know, okay, what's my exit strategy? So if I spend all this time and money building a shelter for my animals, and then next year I decide, you know what, I want to get out of pigs, I want to do something else, and I say, I'm going to sell these, is anybody going to buy that from me? Most people are probably going to lowball me on that. But when I'm dealing with widely recognized, commercially made hog shelters, you can at least get 75% of what you put into them, and people will buy them and take them off your hands. Piglets is another area. Now, I breed piglets, but I know a lot of folks who are raising pigs for meat, and so they want to try to avoid having to spend 1,500 bucks for 10 piglets. And so what they want to do is they think, all right, I'm going to eliminate the middleman. I'm going to breed my own pigs, and then I'm going to raise those piglets out. And the reality is, when you get done with all of the additional management and trying to separate a breeding herd versus meat production herd, because the breeders, you don't want to feed them too much. You don't want them growing too fast and getting too fat, because that shortens their useful lifespan as a breeder if they get too heavy. And the feeders, obviously, they're going the opposite direction. You want to put the grain to them because you want them going to the butcher in 6, 7 months if you can. And when you coordinate all of those logistics, it winds up being a much greater endeavor trying to save that money, where you would be much better off to just spend $1,000, spend 1,200 bucks, get the piglets that you want, and then when you're done with them at the end of the fall and you send them to the butcher, you have the winter to relax, to count your money, and to say, okay, what do we want to do next year? Let's take a little trip. Let's go on a vacation. Let's do something a little bit relaxing to reconnect as a family. And then we'll buy some piglets in the spring. And that money is well spent rather than trying to do everything yourself. For me, this endeavor went the opposite direction, where breeding pigs is my main thing. And I tried raising feeder pigs to sell for pork. And I'm managing that barely, and that's what pushed me to the point of burnout, which is why I made that video that I'm linking here below. That kind of got me thinking in this direction. Pick a lane, pick one thing, do that thing well, and don't be afraid to invest money so that you can put your focus on the thing that actually gives you the greatest return on that investment, because your time is valuable. Your time is valuable. You don't get anything back for the pride that you have in struggling when you can pay somebody who has that as the only thing that they do, who can do that work for you. That brings me to butchering. So I have a butcher shop here. It's one of the first things that I saw when my wife and I came onto this farm. The previous owner had a butcher shop. He was a fantastic butcher. And I stepped into this and thought, this is perfect. I can raise my animals here, and then I can butcher them myself. I can literally own every step of the process. I'm going to be like a mini Smithfield pork. I'm going to have everything just siloed. It's going to be great. And what happened was I learned how to butcher. It was a great experience. And I'm really glad that I know how to butcher. But I can tell you that when I was doing both raising and breeding of my own animals and doing the butchering, I was going insane, because the overhead cost of running the HVAC system, very, very expensive. And time is money. And it's something that we hear, but when you're running a butcher shop where you have an $800 a month tab to keep the coolers going, and you don't want those coolers turning off, and then when you have to call somebody in to repair the cooling units, 1,500 bucks just for the guy to get out of his vehicle and lace up his boots, you got a gun to your back constantly, because you got to be making money, because every minute that those coolers are running, you're paying money for that. So you have to be making money. And it creates this cycle where, unless you can really focus on doing just that one thing, where you're running enough animals through that meat processing to where you're actually covering your overhead there, you're going to be too distracted and moving around doing things with your animals and taking care of the health and the farrowing and the feeding and all of the rotational grazing and mending the fences and preparing new paddocks and areas, right? Because I'm in the butcher shop, I don't have time to do any of that stuff. And it was really difficult for me to let go of butchering because it's so expensive to have somebody come in here. And why should I pay somebody to slaughter a pig and butcher it when I can do that? And I enjoy doing that actually. That's a big part of the process that I like doing, having my hands involved in that. But once I let go of that, I actually sold my big equipment. I had a big bandsaw and I had a big Hobart meat grinder, massive, just enormous grinder. I sold the rail system, and the gentleman that I sold it to actually became my butcher. So we wound up developing a good relationship. And now when he comes to do my animals, I can watch him work. And then when he's done, he gets it done in much shorter period of time. And he takes that animal away, and the money that I'm paying, that's giving me back a tremendous amount of time so that I don't have to dread, oh, you know what, I'm going to wait to butcher this animal because I don't have time to actually go through the process to cut it up in time so the meat doesn't spoil. And I'm always kicking the can down the road, and I have animals that are just eating feed, but I don't have time to butcher them. So I'm like absorbing that cost. Whereas now I say, I got a pig that's ready to go. Hey, you know what? Let's do 2 or 3 of them. Come on over, Doug. I'm going to have you do these ones, and it's done. And my customers are getting their meat faster and they're happy about that. And I'm not having to kick the can down the road and shy away from butchering my animals because I'm not having to carry that entire burden on myself. I'd love to hear from you in the comments if there are things that I have not mentioned that you are dealing with where you're thinking about maybe outsourcing some of what you're doing or spending some money on something to save your time. The only way to find out is to try it. And I am willing to bet that if you prioritize your time and give certain tasks that are causing you a lot of extra stress, give those tasks or sell those tasks to other people who are better at them than you. There is no dishonor in letting your pride go by the wayside, saving a little bit of your sanity and your time. And in the process, you will find that you are better positioned to do more business and to sell more products because it doesn't hurt, because you're not carrying the whole thing. You have other people that are helping, and it's worth the money that you pay because you can do bigger and better business. So I want to encourage you, I want to give you permission to spend money. I want to give you permission to outsource some of the things that you can do yourself, but that aren't actually putting money in your bank. They're just wasting your time. Give those to somebody else. It's good to know how to do those things, but give those to somebody else who can really help you leverage your time so that what you are putting your time in is what you enjoy and what you are best at and what is actually going to be the thing that people know you for, that is going to make you money so that you can put that time where it's going to give you the greatest return, because it's really hard to make a lot more money or to charge more money for the things that we're doing. But if we can be more efficient and streamline the process of what we're doing so that it takes less of our precious time away from our family and our health and the things that we love in order to bring those same number of animals or products to market, we're going to be way ahead for having done so. So it seems backwards, but give it a try and let me know in the comments how that's working for you and where you are at in this journey. I'm Steven. This is Rowan Ridge Farm. Subscribe to the channel. Let's stay in touch, and we'll see you guys on the next video.